Cool. And welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in. So as Spencer said, I'm going to talk about building real-world and ethical AI solutions through global collaboration. So when we look at the current state of machine learning and data science, what we see that 87% of all AI projects fail to make into production, which is quite high for any kind of development. And this leads to frustration, loss of opportunities, and waste of money. And everyone will agree that that's completely unacceptable at this current point. The question is, what are the reasons for this failure? Why there's such a high failure rate of production of AI solutions? To my understanding, and having spoken to many people around the world, we can perhaps list three core reasons. The first one is lack of inclusiveness. For example, in the case of Amazon, that they had built a solution for recruitment, which ended up being kind of sexist because the recruitment itself process is sometimes can be sexist, preferring male candidates. However, because they perhaps didn't include enough female in their engineering team, that team was not able to identify the bias that was in the data. The second part is what I think is inherent competitive nature in different companies around the world, which makes different departments work in silo. And the knowledge is not transferred from one department to the second department. And the third one, which I've heard again many times, especially in big corporates like banks and financial institutions, is there is a lack of proper process. The agile kind of process they don't follow. They still follow the old model of development, which I think doesn't really work in terms of AI development. So the question is that how could we build AI solutions for success? And when I say define success, we have to build solutions which are ethical, trustable, and adoptable, because if it's not ethical and trustable, no one is going to adopt them. And what we believe that for any organization to succeed, we need to make a more cultural shift from this silo and competitive environment to a more collaborative development process, which includes with that will end up building solutions that are efficient, ethical, and inclusive. And in fact, it's not only us what we are talking about. There was an article that McKinsey came up a couple of months ago, and the title was How to Build AI with and for Everyone in Your Organization. And it's quite important to really underline this with and for everyone, because that's the only way we will be able to make AI successful. The question is whether McKinsey or other companies have that process that they can deliver this kind of solution involving with and for everyone. We believe at Omdena, we have demonstrated that this is possible to build. Over the last 15 months since we started, we have executed 24 projects. Actually, we started today one, which involved over 1,300 AI and domain experts from 83 countries, collaborating, coming together over a 2-month period and building those solutions. What kind of solutions we are talking about? These are not simple regression solutions or not simple classification models. We have worked on very sophisticated projects. For example, we worked on computer vision, where we had used low resolution satellite images to classify the kind of crops in Nepal, or identify the type of trees, or identify individual trees with working with a startup in Sweden. The goal of that was to prevent forest fires, because what they have seen many times, these trees fall on overhead cables and cause fire. So identifying this individual tree was very important. Or worked in Brazil with an SME to identify forest fire. At the same time, we have also worked in natural language processing, where the goal was to understand the sentiments of tweets and then to identify whether the tweets that gangs are using and any correlation between that and actual violence. And we saw that there is a correlation between what gangs are using in Twitter when they are kind of attacking each other and actual violence. And so by that, we can prevent violence in Chicago. For example, that was done in Chicago. or we have worked understand what is the public sentiment around globally around energy transition. Or in India, we worked on understanding the causes of land conflicts. Again, all of that we are using publicly available data. So these are not any confidential data. So we use newspaper articles, social media to kind of scrap and understand what is happening, what are the people thinking, what are causing land conflicts. Also, we worked on some things like data analysis, visualization. For example, in Somalia, we try to understand whether there is a correlation between climate anomalies and actual conflicts happening. And we saw that there is a kind of a correlation between when a climate anomaly happens, displacement happens, which causes conflicts. So by modeling that, we were able to predict conflicts. Or in Nigeria, we worked on understanding what are the parts of Nigeria that are best suited for solar adoption. And that would, for example, based on what are the where there is a nighttime is dark, there's high population density. We identified where is a place which is far away from national grid. So we used the different kinds of data points, collected them publicly available, and then build that model. Also, at the same time, we worked on something like AI planning. For example, one of the use cases that I will talk about is we worked in World Food Program to plan disaster relief planning. That when a disaster happens in some part of the world, what is the best way to build the relief package? Or in case of an earthquake in Istanbul, what is the best way to reach from point A to point B? That's an article that came up in the Next Web. So, I mean, I just want to show this range of work that we have done, that it's not about just one specific domain. We have worked on such a great different domains, on so many different projects, on so many different types of work. So that clearly shows the strength of using such kind of collaborative environment, because we can leverage the wisdom of and the power of the crowd. The question is that shouldn't be any doubt in anyone's mind that what we have demonstrated that shows that collaborative model actually works and is able to build successful AI solutions. Obviously, anyone will think, why does this is able to work, what we have been able to do? And I think there are three core essence of anyone who wants to build such kind of environment and such kind of collaborative way of development. First is the people, that you have to pick the right people who have the right motivation and the skills. The second is the process. The processes that enhance collaboration and keeps the right motivation and upskills the people so that they have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And the third part is the technology with the right platform, the tools, and the libraries. In fact, the technology is the least important in this, and the people and the processes are the most important. What we have seen that when we talk about the people, we have people from all backgrounds, people working in Google, Microsoft, but also people who are professors and doctors, all different genders. In fact, in our environments, when we build such kind of environment of building solutions, we have 30-35% as female, which is quite high in any technological or tech development environment, and people from across all the continents. And age also ranging from 70 to 60, which is also very important to get people from all different age groups, the background, because that's really creates a diversity. And why is that even possible now? Anyone will ask, is because of online education. So because now knowledge is very diversified. So we are able to tap into this huge diverse group of people all over the world who can come together, collaborate, and build that solution. The second part, as I said, is a process. So what we have built is a very bottom-up driven process, which I will also encourage anyone else who wants to include that kind of process in-house, that where different teams take up their own initiatives and try different models. So that creates trying multiple models at the same time, and the best model wins, rather than doing a very one path where we try in sequentially one model after another. But in this kind of more collaborative environment, you can try multiple models at the same time. That also kind of enforces the quality, and that builds a trust, because the peer-to-peer review is very processed. When you bring a bigger collaborative environment, people are very keen to give their feedback, help each other, and review each other's work. So the biases that we had spoken in the beginning would have been immediately identified right in the beginning in such an environment, because there will be someone who would say, okay, we shouldn't do this because there is already a bias, and we have to de-bias the data. And also, this kind of environment is more creates ethical solution, because again, this creation of the sub-communities creates shared learning, and that enforces that, as I said in the previous example, in a way that creates this inclusiveness, and people are more willing to sharing their knowledge. And I believe that if we really want to build a more ethical solutions and trustable, it has to be more bottom-up environment, not a top-down. So because it's a very bottom-up environment, that creates ethical solutions. Ethics, I don't believe, is something that from top we enforce, but it's kind of does up to the bottom, where people who are building the solutions, because of the diversity, enforces the ethical by design that happens. So to conclude, and just to conclude that if we are really serious about building the future of AI and innovation, which is also struggling to actually in many companies, is that we have to involve people at the bottom level, at the bottom-up level, in a structured way, who are facing the problem to build the solutions. And that could be within the company, it could be outside the company. But even if we are building in the company a solution, involve the people who are in the company, who are facing the problem day to day, rather than bringing external people. But train them and then kind of provide them the environment, the processes, so that they can go and build the solution that the company can themselves use. And we have seen that the feedback that we have been in such kind of environment, we have seen that actually collaboration really helps to also reskill, which I think a lot of companies, if they want to use this kind of environment, they should highly encourage, because people often say that what they have learned in this kind of environments in a couple of months is more than what they would have learned in a few years. And at the same time, building solutions that the company can use. And that's kind of very, very powerful, because this environment enforces the ethical solutions, inclusiveness, trustable, adoptable by design, as well at the same time building solutions that you can use, and at the same time reskilling your employees. So thanks. That's all I have to say today. Thanks a lot. I would highly encourage to go and read an article about Omdena that came up last week in Forbes magazine, and that's the title of the article. That kind of more explains some more details of how and what we have done. And I'm happy to feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer any questions if